now we are joined by Michael Ruhland, a candidate for Lino Lakes City Council, and you're no stranger to City Hall either, right? You've been involved in a couple different capacities there, right? Tell me about that.
That's correct, yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me, Rusty. Appreciate it. And I started with the city on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And then I stayed on that for probably a year and a half or so until a spot opened up on the Planning and Zoning Board. And then I put my hat in the ring for that and was appointed by City Council of that. And I've been doing that for coming up on 2 years here now, and where I'm currently serving the city.
And so you kind of have that familiarity in the workings and the comings and goings and kind of the process there. That's an advantage in some cases in a case like this, right?
For sure. It was something that I guess I've always had aspirations to be on City Council. I guess I wanted to kind of familiarize myself with the city business prior to just running for City Council, kind of get some experience under my belt.
So with City Council as a whole, there's going to be a bit of a change here because there's an opening for mayor. There will be a new mayor, and so there could be some shuffling with that. What do you see as an opportunity for City Council specifically? Obviously that reflects, or that is a component of the city as a whole. Are there opportunities or one singular opportunity you see there?
Well, any shift in power like that, I guess that's another reason why I wanted to step up to the plate right now was, I'm going to be raising my family here and whatnot. And so I wanted to, I guess, be involved with that and be able to have a say in what was going on, kind of keep it concerned citizens' eye on everything, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that is there one or are there a few issues that come to mind when thinking of what the city is facing right now, or anything that you would like to see focused on or something like that?
Some concerns of mine would be public safety, I guess, and the fact that there's a couple of people that are, seeking re-election in this cycle that are kind of almost trying to maybe undermine or aren't necessarily for some of the moves that City Council has made in the past for our public safety. The fact of the matter is we're a safer city now as a whole. When we were with the other fire department, we had response times that were in 5+ minutes or whatever, and now we're actually like under 4. So it was easy before to kind of speculate and harp on some of the city council members for doing what they did, but we didn't have any data. Now we have the data. We know that Lino Lakes is a safer city. Matter of fact, it's one of the safest cities in Minnesota. We are pretty consistently, I guess, now in the top 5. I think we've been as high as 2, and I think the latest one were 4. But I think that contributes a lot to also the cross-training of the police department. And so the fact that anybody would want to maybe undermine that or revert back or rewind that, that's obviously very concerning for me, and that's one of the reasons I'm deciding to run as well.
Now you say undermine, you mean undermine financially and with decision making, or are you talking specifically about what was in many cases a controversial or a decision that brought about a lot of people being very vocal about having this cross-training, having the public safety model rather than police and fire and leaving the other fire? Are you speaking specifically of that, or are you speaking about particular decisions outside of that made by the current council that you feel is undermining?
I guess I feel that they're still openly opposed to it, and they haven't, being as we have the facts that we have now. So what that means, I guess, is to be seen, because I can't say what they would or would not do, but the fact that they're saying that they're opposed to that when I feel my family is safer now, that's, I guess, more what I'm referring to.
Okay, I see what you mean. Let's talk about maybe an opportunity with the city. Anoka County, Washington County recently made an announcement partnering about the Minnesota Tech Corridor. They want to develop the land there that's along I-35E, involving also the cities of Centerville, Hugo, Columbus, Forest Lake, and of course Lino Lakes. What kind of opportunities do you see for the city of Lino Lakes? And again, talking about decision making at City Hall, but really for the city as a whole with this development of this corridor?
That corridor, I've had some experience with that in my capacity at the Economic Development Advisory Committee level. We were constantly interviewing different businesses that were thinking about maybe setting up shop in Lino Lakes, and that was one. That tech corridor is something I'm very enthusiastic about. I think that would be so awesome for Lino Lakes. For one, you have the state of Minnesota is offering a tax exemption right now for different types of tech companies, software companies, and data centers would be a big one. If we could get a data center in that tech corridor, that'd be a home run for this city. I read about one in Chaska that was developed at $268 million or some kind of crazy figure like that. And I talked about this actually in my bio on the North Metro TV website, but it's the trifecta. It's low impact on the city streets, traffic, and these centers are run with such a skeleton crew that there's just not a lot of people coming to and from there. Additionally, you're talking $268 million. I mean, they're sometimes $1 billion+ to make these things for the right one. So you're talking about extremely high tax value. Additionally, it's low stress on public services. There's some development that can happen commercially in a city where it applies a lot of stress. It might be high tax value, right? But it applies so much pressure on our city services that it almost costs us more money, and it's not as beneficial as it may seem.
So again, it's kind of that newer model of economic development. In some cases, like you said, the smaller impact, but still that investment, still the dollars coming in on different fronts. That's kind of like I don't want to say smart development, but that's a looking ahead kind of development that Lino Lakes can really take a part of.
Correct. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Okay. What do you think the people of Lino Lakes want to see for the city? You talk to people in the capacity you've been serving at City Hall, but now in the process of running for City Council, are you hearing specific things from people, your neighbors, or people that you've talked to in the city?
Yeah, so the people I've talked to, I've heard a few different things. Taxes would be one. I mean, I've been a citizen of Lino Lakes for a while now, and my taxes went up just like everybody else's. I'm not a huge fan of that. However, one thing I did look into when that did happen, I realized that a lot of it was voter-approved levies, right? And so then I started doing a little bit of research on it, and I looked at, over the past decade, our city's only seen like a 7.4% increase in taxes. And with moderate growth, we can keep an eye on taxes and make sure that they're staying low. That would be kind of my goal with being on City Council, would be the right kind of development and getting more tax dollars in from businesses or residential development.
Yeah, instead of the levies that may come from an outside place like the school district or even on the county level, if the case may be, those kind of have the impact and give the illusion that taxes, and the city may say, listen, we're not doing any of this. It's these outside things that the people enjoy, the school district, the quality of the school district like Centennial or the county services and things like that. I'm sure that there's a little bit of education involved there, but keeping people informed about that and then making the city's responsible decisions is what you're saying needs to be the case.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything that can be done in terms of, certainly there are more houses being built, but are there other things that can bring to the city, like smaller scale commercial or even retail or even like dining or something like that? Are there ways to attract things that if people want to go out in the evening, they may have to go down to White Bear Lake or over to Blaine or even down into the cities? Is there something that Lino Lakes as a city council can do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we have to be careful about that, because I can tell you that as a business owner, anytime that, especially with today's technology, even though it's not necessarily new technology, one of the first things I'm going to do if I'm looking at expansion of a company or opening up a new location of retail space or something like that is I'm going to have some kind of demographic study done, right? I'm going to say my target market is 18 to 65-year-olds, and that's just how business works these days, right? So people are going to run that report, and Lino Lakes, we're very fortunate with some environmental features and whatnot where we have wetlands, and so we can't be real dense. And so those companies that are looking at those statistics, they're looking for maybe a more dense community. So that's kind of the trade-off, right? It's like, well, do we want to have super dense population, more wear and tear on the roads, potentially higher tax dollars, or do we want to have that kind of spread out, we can spread our wings type of feel?
Okay.
So,
All right. Thinking about that, thinking about, we mentioned a couple of opportunities, we mentioned a couple of issues, if you want to say that, facing, or challenges maybe. When you look ahead 20 years, you've lived in the city long enough now to kind of draw on some experience and see the growth already, but look ahead 20 years, where do you see Lino Lakes in 20 years?
20 years from now, well, I suppose that depends on who gets elected, right? You know, we have people that are trying to undermine the, you know, or are openly opposed to our public safety model, which is now proven to be making Lino Lakes a very safe place to live. So, you know, if the right people are in office, I feel like in 20 years from now, we could have a tech corridor that's just awesome, pumping out some nice tax dollars to potentially keep ours level or lower them as a safe place to live. You know, I think there would be some development as long as it's the you know, right kind of development, residential. I don't think if I'm elected, I wouldn't want to have, you know, certainly high density housing everywhere throughout the city. So, and I think the city staff and our kind of comp plan that I've been a part of as well, we've done a good job of kind of outlining, you know, if you look at the 2040 comp plan that's available on Lino Lake's website, you can kind of see and get a feel for what the view is 20 years from now.
Okay. Mike Ruhland, thank you very much for joining us today.
No, I appreciate you having me.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Okay.